40.
40.
40
Yep.
years.
40. Been a great 40 years, up, down, but through it all. We got 2 knucklehead kids, 3 grandkids, a granddog. And so therefore, it's been good. Not perfect, but it's been very good.
It's very, very good. There have been some ups and some downs, but whether it's the storms, it's been worthwhile.
Yep. America's was a very slow pace, but you had a neighborhood. That's something I would never forget. The neighborhood. One thing that was always interesting, there was one key in the neighborhood. One key would unlock and lock all the doors in that neighborhood. And when someone left home, there was always someone on the porch, especially in the summertime, that would watch over the house, never in a break-in, and it was just a very friendly neighborhood. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody supported everybody. And my father was always one that knew everybody, along with my mother too. And he knew people that had farms. He knew people that grew tomatoes in the city. And always, there was never a want for food. And I just, think about some of the things we had to do. My mother, we had a deep freezer. And my mother, I didn't even know that you could buy, had canned vegetables. We always had frozen food, so there was always a plenty of food. And Daddy knew people that had what is called a smokehouse. They always had meat. And, he would go by and pick up hams or chickens or whatever, and we had always had food. We may not have had some of the luxury things of life, but we always had food and had a warm environment. I say this is like to a point of a song that I do sing sometimes. Not a solo, but just sing. That my mother always taught me that you may not be able to treat everybody the same, but if you lived in her house, you had to treat everybody right. And that was something that always stayed in my mind. You got to treat and respect people, and you could always learn something from everybody. And Daddy was the type that would always echo what my mother would say. And also, my daddy was always emphasizing education. He didn't have the opportunity to finish school the way he wanted to, but he made sure that we went to school. And even I had a perfect attendance from kindergarten all the way through 11th grade. Never did miss a day because he always insisted that we go to school because he knew what he went through.
We had a quiet, secluded neighborhood with close neighbors. The children all played in the yard together. I remember playing kickball and everything else out of there in the yard.
Athlete, an athlete.
Yeah. Um,
Athlete.
I particularly remember and enjoyed my relationship with Miss Longino, who was like a second mother to me. Cheryl was the only child for her, so I got a chance to go to a lot of the activities together with them. Like we went to see the Sound of Music and the Spelman Glee Club concerts and just any kind of movie that was out. We went swimming every Wednesday night at the Y together. Ate dinner at Pascal's, that fried chicken from Pascal's. We just had a good time. It was a good relationship. My mother was quiet. She was a quiet storm. She was quiet. She had she was real quiet, but when you got on her nerve, you really got on her nerve. You got the bite then. My dad worked all the time. He was a truck driver, and he stayed gone all the time. But he was a disciplinarian, and every child in the neighborhood knew when our daddy was coming home. There was a big rock at the front of the community, and children would be standing on that rock, and they see daddy coming back in his truck, and they say, "Yeah, them daddy coming home," and everybody started flying, flying, flying. But he was also good in that he always brought something for all the children in the neighborhood, and they look forward to whatever he was bringing home, whether it was some vegetables or candy or whatever, to the different children.
May I ask a question? You went swimming?
Yes, I went swimming.
Oh, okay.
I went swimming every Wednesday night at the Y until the lifeguard told me, he said, the next time you come, you got to jump off this wall into the pool. And that was the last time I was scared of water. I got a dreadful fear of water. I kind of got over that. Well, I didn't say I got over that. I challenged that fear when we went to Mexico and swimming with the dolphins. You know how scared I was to get out on that little deck
Oh, I
to
remember
kiss the
that.
deck. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember that.
I had pictures of
my teenage years. My teenage years were they were good, but they were sheltered, a whole lot sheltered. I remember for my sweet 16th birthday party, my daddy told me I could have a party, but I couldn't invite no boys. So we had a house full of girls, girls sitting around with the party. Um, I couldn't date till I was 16, and then well into 16, almost 17, before I really had a date. But it was good. It was good.
I had a very interesting teenage years. First thing I remember working during the summer. I had a couple, first time I got fired from a job was during my teenage years. I went out down in South Georgia. I went to this cotton field to pick cotton. I had friends and relatives that was picking 200 pounds of cotton a day. I went out, a partner of mine, we went out, and I worked all day long, and I picked 40 pounds of cotton. I remember this guy gave me 3 quarters and a nickel and told me, don't ever come back out here again. I made 80 cents all day. And then my parents told me, you don't need to go out anymore. We buy more food for your lunch than 80 cents a day. So I ended up working at our men's department store in Americas. And that was interesting. During the week, I was cleaning up. I cleaned up the store in the evening after school. But on Saturday, as we was called Negroes in, African Americans came in, I was able to wait on them and take the money up to the front. Even a few times I even used the cash register. We're talking back in 64, 65, 66. And then after then, I went to Chicago most every summer. And I worked in Chicago. I had jobs of responsibility in Chicago. I worked as a physical therapist assistant on the night shift. And I would go there and I had to put, at that time, I had to use these heating pads. And I would have to put heating pads, so I would maybe have 3 or 4 people to go put a heating pad on at night. Or either help them to get up and walk around. And then I just spaced my time. That was the time I would come in, and if I didn't have anyone to see until 3 hours later, that was sleeping time for the first 3 hours, and then I would go and put the heating pad. But anyway, also in addition to that, I played football, played a lot of sports. Was not the best in basketball. They asked me to be the scorekeeper in basketball, but I did play football, did play some baseball. But I enjoyed those teenage years. I always felt that I was the Mr. Esquire because I worked at this men's store. I was able to get clothes at a great discount. I mean, a lot of the young ladies I had to really have, y'all stay back.
My first job was at the Journal and Constitution. I was telephone solicitor. I used to call people to get them to get subscriptions for the paper, and I never had to apply for a job. I was always invited to come. This girl that went to church with me told me she used to work there. And she said, do you want a job? I said, yeah. She said, come down and ask for Mr. Stinson, I think his name was. I did that and I started working. And then the next job I was working with Dr. Davis over at Clark. And she said, call me off the yard one day. And she said, you have a job for the summer? You want a job? I said, yeah. She said, go down to Hugh Spalding and ask for whatever that lady's name was. I did that and I got the job. Every job I've had has been sort of given to me. I've never had to really just search out and apply for a job. And they've always been good jobs, too.
Another thing about teenage years, I remember another interesting job. I used to go, and there was a bus that would take us to Fort Valley, Georgia, because we would pick peaches, and picking peaches was not my thing. So the guy, since I was a Husky guy there, he asked me to line the boxes, and so people could dump their peaches into these baskets at the end of the road. But anyway, my partner again, William, we would go there, and we would go, and we we would just really almost run and put basket all the way down the line, and we would go somewhere and just hide for a long time because it was hot, and that's what really made me. I don't think this is the type of work I really need to do. That's when I made up my mind. Then I'm going to somebody's school after high school because this is hard work, and I am not. I'm allergic to hard work.
I had I had two sisters and a brother.
You
I
have.
was well. I have two sisters and a brother. I was the oldest and always the responsible. I had to be responsible for the household because Mama worked. She was a nurse. She worked 3 to 11, which means we were in school for most of the day. And when we got out of school, she was going to work. So the responsibility fell on my shoulder. Um, my brother was challenging. He had his feel of things. He did what he wanted to do. Um, Janet, my middle sister, she was independent. She worked hard, and Sandra was sort of like I say insecure one for the most part that had to be pulled along. Um, but they've all ended up being very, very successful.
In today's term, I guess we had a blended family, but we never did consider it a blended family. What I mean is that my father had six kids before he and my mother got married. I had three sisters and three brothers that my father had, which most people would say half brothers and sisters, but we never considered ourselves as half brothers and sisters. But after a while, they moved to Chicago. But and then my mother had one daughter before she and my father got married. So therefore, that was a real blended family. But I have two sisters that I grew up with, two additional sisters, I should say. So it was basically 10 of us, and I was the youngest of the 10. So some people may say I was spoiled. I don't say that. I just
When we
say
got ready to get married, Reverend Abernathy asked me, he said, "Dad, do you know what you're doing?" And I said, "Why?" But he said, "This is the baby of 10, and he's a boy. 6 of those were girls. Do you know what you're
You
doing?"
were the oldest.
I was the oldest. I was used to being responsible for. So he could see it, but I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. He said, "Do you know what you're doing? You taking on a baby, and you got the responsibility of being in charge of it." But after a while, I learned what he was talking about.
it was just a matter of having six sisters. You didn't have to worry about cooking or any of those type things. They would always keep the house very clean. They would cook and all of that. So it was just a matter of being present in time to eat. I started going to West Hunter Street Baptist Church in Atlanta. I met Cheryl. What was her name there?
Cheryl McKenzie at the
Mackenzie, I
time.
think at the time. Okay, I was in the choir. Couldn't sing, but I was in the choir. And Cheryl told me one day, she said, "I have a friend of mine that I want you to meet." I said, "Okay." I said, "I'll meet her in time." She said, "Okay." But later on, around this time of the year, very close to the 24th to the 15th of January, the young lady that she was dating then was having, was getting ready to have a birthday party. So the party was over at my partner's and mine, a house. And Gail came over, which was a great big surprise for many reasons. The first is that we never had any food at the party. So I'm not going to say what we had at the party, but we never had any food. And Gail brought all these trays of food. And then I said, "There, this young lady can really cook." And Cheryl said, and she was a home economic major. Yes, this is the one. That's the truth. That's my side of it.
What's your version of the story? So,
I went over to help cater that party, and I met Will. You know, Cheryl had introduced him to him, and we just sort of hit off and start dating and stuff. Our first date was at a Gigi's Pizza. Gigi's Pizza.
On the low drive in Atlanta. And then I thought about who's gonna pay for this.
Yeah, right. It was understood he was gonna pick
I
up the
believe
tab. He probably thought about it, but
Oh, and we was in my great car.
Wait a minute. Who paid for it?
Oh,
He
I
paid
did. I
for
did.
it.
Oh, okay.
But she was riding free in I had a convertible Volkswagen.
yeah, right.
I had a convertible Volkswagen when we first met.
Yeah,
You remember
right.
the yellow Volkswagen?
Yeah, I remember. It wasn't convertible though.
Yes, it
It
was.
was a sunshine yellow Volkswagen.
It was
Big
a
old
convertible.
wheel in a Volkswagen. But I never
Yeah.
will forget when he first came up. I went, this big old man in this Volkswagen. But we rode that Volkswagen for many years. Went from the yellow one to a green one.
The blue one. Yeah, green one.
It
I was
was
like green. It
green.
was green.
It was
Yellow,
green.
yellow to green.
Yep.
9 months later, Chelsea. A few years later, 3 years later, Krista.
Well, y'all got married. You proposed.
Oh yeah, we got married. I mean, we was married. I'm not saying that all that time. We got married December 20th, 1975. 40 years. You got it.
Yep. We got
When did you
engaged
go?
6 months after we met him. It was in January, about January. Well,
Yeah.
July, he gave me a ring, asked me to marry, and we got married in December.
When did you know she was the one? At the party with the trays or a little later on?
I knew it was really in the making it with all that food.
You were easy.
Well, yeah, probably so.
When did you know?
I don't know. I don't know. I think I was enamored by his. He was responsible. He took on leadership roles in a lot of different ways. I just liked his ingenuity about things, and I just sort of fell into the group, and we just hung in there. Daddy was dead at the time. Mama liked him, but I never will forget when I guess we had been dating for about 5 months, 4 or 5 months, and he wanted me to meet the rest of his family in Chicago. Asked me if I could go to Chicago with him, and I asked. But he had already said something about getting married. But Mama told me, she said, I like that boy. He seemed like a pretty nice guy, but you don't need to go to Chicago or nowhere else to meet nobody. So I didn't get a chance to meet none of his family until the wedding. Till the wedding. Mama was determined. You weren't go all this. I'm going with him for his, my boyfriend for a weekend. That Mama didn't play that. Didn't play that. And she
Tell the
said
other
no.
part now.
What other part?
That Miss Sterling was scared of me.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, right.
Daddy, my mother was a deceased there, but my daddy, he really loved her. But he never
knew
did
my
know her name though.
He called me daughter.
He thought daughter. I really think he did know her name, but he always
I
called
don't
her
think
daughter.
he never knew my name. He just always called me daughter. Daughter this, daughter that.
From day one.
But he was good.
And so we talking about Daddy. You remember when Daddy almost got that date with Miss Wilcox,
please.
grandmother? Daddy was a sport now.
So he was trying to date your mom.
No,
The
he
grandmother.
wasn't. We'll always talk about that. He wasn't trying to. No, forget it. No, no way.
My best man, I had 2 best men. One was Frank Smith, my nephew. We grew up together, Frank and I, because his mother moved in with us after my mother became ill. He was our best man number 2. Ross Cleveland, a person that I have really been the best friend with for 62 years. We was talking about it this weekend. We had been the best of friends for how many ever years in '75, but we went from kindergarten at 4 years old all the way through life. We was almost most of the time we was in the same grade. We lived in the same neighborhood, and I've been in Ross' wedding. Ross was the best man in our wedding, and then I had a lot of my fraternity brothers from Albany State that made chapel with me. That was also in the wedding, and we had a very nice wedding.
I had Janet and Sandra, of course, my sisters, and then Cheryl, being my oldest girlfriend. And then some sorority sisters that pledged with me or either pledged me.
What sorority?
Delta Sigma Theta. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was an AKA.
And then a couple of friends from high school that were there. They were bridesmaids too. Hmm.
And it was at West Hunter Street Baptist Church.
Under the leadership of
The Reverend Dr. Ralph David Abernathy.
And Gregory Sutton.
And yes.
My dress had static in it. I remember my dress, for whatever reason, I had the crinoline under it, but for whatever reason, the static clean kept getting real close. And you could see it on the pictures, some of the pictures from the wedding.
okay.
Uncle Emery, he was always a more compassionate uncle I had. Uncle Reuben was kind of cold, kind of to himself, sort of. And I just always felt closer to Emery. So I asked him if he would give me away. He told me that Daddy had said to him, if anything ever happened to me, I want you to take care of my family. You know, so he said when I asked him, he just felt compelled to do it. As a matter of fact, the whole Kemp family was in. Mary took down her Christmas tree out of her house and put it up in the fellowship
in the baptismal
room,
pool.
right? Michael, Gerald,
Emery.
Jerry,
Emery.
Greg
Right.
were groomsmen. Reed was candlelighter. Every last one of them was in our wedding.
Right.
And
Plus they hosted the rehearsal dinner, and that was very good. That was a very elaborate dinner. Rehearsal
Auntie
dinner.
Mary was always the society one, so she was going to have everything just nickety spit. Everything was going to be just like it need to be. So y'all got married, you're on your honeymoon, and
Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Tennessee.
We had no reservation. We just got in the car and we said we're going to drive
up in the
up
mountains.
in the mountain.
With no gas. I was so scared we were going to run out of gas. I didn't know. As a matter of fact, we almost did run out of gas. And all the gas stations closed early. We end up finding
because
a
it was-
phone booth.
Frozen over.
Froze up. We end up finding a phone booth and calling, I guess 911 to ask where can we get some gas.
Right.
And the operator called the owner of the gas station, and you could hear him say, I got these colored folk up here.
No, you got a little wrong there. Okay, remember she called the police department.
Okay, yeah.
Right. And then the policeman said I would get in touch with the gas station owner.
That's what it was.
And then the gas station owner said, okay, I will sell these colored people some gas if you come up here with them
Yeah.
to buy the gas.
Yep.
But we rode down
I
the
didn't
mountain
call-
though
he
with no
could-
gas. I mean, we was there coasting. I mean, it was fun.
I was so scared I didn't know what to do. I didn't. I had my brand new car. I had a
Yep.
brand new car with no gas.
What was that? What name? That was a Ford.
Fort Grenada.
Ford
Fort
Grenada.
Grenada.
Fix
Yep.
or repair daily. I'm sorry, don't say that.
It kept you satisfied for the first few years.
Being the youngest, I had to really get, and then plus the nephews, I mean the people that were around, nieces and nephews, was mostly nephews. So I had to get used to having two little girls around, first with Chelsea. And I guess for some reason, I really was like gravitating to her being an athlete, similar to mine. I saw her, playing the basketball, running the track and all of that. And I guess that's what was interesting then when she even ran track with the team that I was coaching. That was always interesting. But Chelsea was one of them that, I had to get her indoctrinated to say, okay, you're a helper. Not only are you a runner, but you're a helper because when we would come back from our trips in the AAU competition, there were some parents that did not pick up their kids on time, and she also had to stay there with me, until I brought her home. So, and then when you came along, and I saw you had about $10, $15 and all that, and I said, now there's a big difference, but I got to treat them fairly, treat them the same, but even though they have different interests. And that was really good. I learned a lot just being around you all with different personality, a different interest at the time.
I think the biggest point, the real responsibility of parenthood hit me. We were in church one Sunday. I had went going along with the roles and doing everything a mother was supposed to do, but we were sitting there. I had you and Crystal with me, and I crossed my legs, and at the side of my eye, Chelsea was sitting right next to me. She crossed her leg. And then I just saw what she was doing out the side of my eye. I said, this little girl is imitating me. So I took my hand and I put one finger on my face and one under my chin. And I watched her meticulously do the same thing. She was watching me, but she didn't know I was watching her. And she did exactly the same thing. She kept her leg crossed the same way, and she kept her finger up to her face. So, and then a voice came to me saying, she's imitating you. The walk that you're putting before her is important. And that just stuck with me. That just, over the years, that just stuck with me like you're a role model.
And for you, Crystal, I remember when you wanted to jump off in the water at the place up in Marietta. Whitewater. And I was not a swimmer, I must admit. And when I saw you go down, first thing I jumped in. Where I was going, I did not know, but I was going to make it over there to you. There was no way I was going to really, let you go down again. And but for some reason, I got there.
Do you remember that?
How I got there, because you was a distance away, but I swam all the way over there, without knowing how to swim. I was there, and the guy told me when I probably lifted you up, he said, do not let her get back in this water again.
Take these life jackets, put them on,
and
don't take them off till you leave this park.
Yep, he said, not when you get out of the pool, but when you leave this park. And just to see, who was, I think it was Chelsea, when we went to the amusement park on Old National, and
no, that was Crystal.
That was Crystal again.
Want to ride the Ferris wheel.
Daddy,
Daddy, please let me
ride.
Ride. Please, that Will said, no, you don't need to ride, Dad. Please, Dad, I want to ride. I want to ride. He said, no, you don't need to ride. And you kept on begging. He let you ride. And then got all the way on the thing, all the way up to the top. I want to get off.
I want to get off. I want to get off.
Boy, it was.
And then one last thing, Chelsea, I know what it was about Chelsea. We went down to Florida, and I remember Chelsea was riding on my back, I had riding on my shoulder, really. And Chelsea it was something of interest to her, and she almost dropped off my shoulder down at where the glass bottom boats are located. That was a fun trip.
Warm Spring? No,
Warm Spring is in Georgia. It was down at, what was the name? It was in Florida.
Clearwater,
Florida.
Clearwater.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chelsea I saw something there was of interest. And she turned around, and I'm trying to hear, this girl from the fall. I always felt that.
Another thing I remember that time we went to the track meet, and Chelsea had forgotten her shoes, had to borrow somebody else's shoes. And she ran around that track, came in, and then dropped at the finish line. And we all thought she had just fallen out, had passed out. Yeah. He flew down there, flew like everything.
Down at the University of Florida, down in Gainesville.
And Chelsea said, I just had to get out these shoes. They were killing my feet.
And when you had to take her shoes down to Carrollton because Chelsea left her
I never will forget it. Went to a game, ready to play. Yeah. But forgot a uniform. And the coach called said, Miss Grimes, I wouldn't do this if it wasn't playoff. But you got to come to Carrollton and bring her uniform. I had to leave home that Saturday morning, driving all the way to Carrollton by myself because Will was somewhere.
I was working with the state doing some traveling. And I ended up stopping back in Carrollton I never did miss any of your track meets in high school. I never did go to miss any of your cheering episodes when you was in high school. I had to make those, even when Chelsea was in college. I
I
never
used
did
to
miss that.
beg you, please, you don't have to do this. Please, you don't have to do this.
Right.
Why are you out there in that hot sun running? You say, I want to do it. I want to do it.
One last thing I remember when Gail we was up in somewhere in ACC, and Chelsea was running. Clemson, and Gail was in the car waiting, and she said, "Come and let me know when Chelsea will be running." But anyway, the meet moved up a little faster, and Gail was out there, and Chelsea, you may not know this, Gail was out there, and I did stay in to see you run. I went out there to get Gail after you finished your race, and Gail was the first one. Yeah, that was a good race. That was a good race. You didn't even see her.
I think your cousin was with me too. We were
Yeah.
asleep.
Yeah, he was in the
Sitting out there in
car.
that hot
But,
sun.
I love the way Gail was cheering for her, though. Oh, you had a good race. That was real good. I was out here on the side. You didn't even see her.
For a long time, I resisted having Will, I guess, act like he was in charge of everything, like he was responsible for what I did and what y'all did, and it irritated me. I got just as much sense as he got, and I got just as much ability as he had, but I found that he really feels like it's his responsibility. He really feels like it is his responsibility. And if I just let go and let him be in charge, that I felt like I was gaining more. It was growing on me to be more accepting of what he was trying to do for us to be happy, and it has become easier. I don't resist stuff like I used to. It's become a whole lot easier.
I guess the only thing that me it's been good from up and up down, but I miss those 3 meals cooked, home cooked meals.
You ain't gonna have that. I'm sorry.
She
I'm
she
sorry.
never would do that. But anyway, no, Gail can really cook though. I mean, I really have enjoyed the food. We really had to really grow. We had to learn. In marriage, you have to learn that it's not all about me. It's all about us. You have to learn responsibility. I've learned all of that. But I still miss having those. As my parent, as my sister would do, cook 3 meals a day.
Now, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do it.
There's
I cook
still hope,
enough
though.
food.
There's still hope.
Yeah, it's hope, but sorry.
I would say 40 years ago, I realized I had to work, and I must be the first to say I changed jobs a lot. I mean, I had a thing where, hey, if this didn't really work for me, then I would change. I'm not going to sit here and struggle with a job, because I know I could get another one. Jobs were very plentiful, 40 years ago, but now in retirement, I look at it as something that it's good. I think that is one of the greatest blessings that could ever be bestowed upon someone. When you can retire, and I'm not sitting up here boasting or anything, but when you can retire and not have to worry about whether enough money is coming in to take care of the necessities of life, that is already a given. I was fortunate to work long enough with state of Georgia, with state government, to really get that retirement along with some other things to really have enough. So now I don't feel, because now I like to do other things, it's like part of an investment club. At least I know that, the basics of life are taken care of. And I could use, I would say, extra money that I have as we are, doing some very positive things, in part of our investment club. We're buying stock. We we was on the verge of buying some real estate. And unfortunately, one of our members that was looking at that project, his life ended, about a month or so ago. So that project is on hold. So, it's a matter now of putting those type things together to even increase doing some things, because eventually, I would like to see us get another house, And I have not talked with Gail about this at length, but she did mention that even coming up the steps, are getting a little harder. So I want to get us a ranch somewhere, somewhere we can just cool out. She won't have to worry about coming up in the steps or anything. Everything will be on one level. And, that's what I look at now. It's a whole different perspective. But the point being, at least we have something that we can use to help us to advance us to get another house. One while the economy had dropped out, we couldn't afford to really get another one. But now, we're moving into that line because I would like to see her. I don't like to see her do the struggling to try to get up those steps. But right now, it's no choice. Even I had mentioned about having one of those things that were those lifters. But the point being, I would like to see her have something so she wouldn't even have to worry about that. We don't have any real worries now, but I wouldn't want her to keep having this struggle to come up these steps from downstairs.
The thing that bothered me in the beginning was that attitude of I don't have to work. So he would quit a job. I would look up and I'm thinking he working and he ain't working and what in the world is this getting to? What I don't see. I was used to being secure in what I had and everything being in place, but he would keep on saying, I never let you down. The lights had never been turned off. The phone never been turned off. The house had never gone in foreclosure, and I just had to give it up. Just give it up and sort of let him be responsible for it. And I saved myself a whole lot of headaches like that. He has always come. I have to give it to him. He's always come through. He's always come through.
I want them to understand the importance of several things. First thing is the importance of an education. So they can get a career where they would not have to worry about whether this job they're going to be a layoff next month or whether it's going to be downsized. I want them to get something, hopefully, that they can be an entrepreneur and they can own it. And I know this could be the dreams of a lot of our parents. I know the two of you all as daughters have been very successful in your career, but I want them to be in that field. Each generation should look for advancement for the next generation. I would love for them to be a doctor, a lawyer, in some field where they would not have to worry about that. They would be self-sufficient. An athlete. I know Brady and Drew are going to be top athletes. They're going to be drafted #1 in the NBA and in the NFL. And Kai gonna be a superstar. That's my superstar. That's really my superstar.
I really want for them to just do whatever makes you happy, whatever it is, whatever your heart's desire is. To just do that. I settled for a whole lot of things. The jobs were there for me, but it wasn't necessarily what my heart's interest was. It was a check, and it was a secure check. But my interest, my heart just wasn't in it. But I want them to let your mind just go and find whatever it is that makes you happy
And make you some money.
The money can be there too, but if your heart is in it, and you got your heart in the right place, the money will flow. Everything will flow like it's supposed to. I just want them to be happy.
And I'm really truthful. I see all three of them really with those gifts and talent that could make them very successful. And I have to agree with what Gail said about happiness. I can see those traits already in them, that would make them very successful, and it was just, and I appreciate, in this case, with Chelsea and Curtis being their parents, they are at least keeping them in check to kind of lead them into that way and I appreciate that. I mean, I really appreciate that. I know I joke a lot, and I know I have a lot of fun, but I could appreciate Chelsea and Curtis and the way that they are raising them, and because they're three little responsible, smart kids, have to do a lot of work after they leave here, but but they are very smart kids. And Kai asking me why, main man, why? But I can deal with that.
But I want her to understand why, so she can make her own decision.
Right. Yeah. I appreciate you all even taking this interest. That is, you and Chelsea taking this interest in doing this, because this is a portrait of who we are, what we've gone through, all the opportunities that may have availed themselves when you all was growing up, those opportunities that will avail themselves while, where Brady, Drew, and Kyle growing up. I want them to be ready for the challenge, because this is not a matter of black white now. This is a matter of who's ready to take on the real challenge, and I know there are some things that they may be politically, they may not be able to succeed, not because they're not ready, but because of the political climate. But the point being, I want them to be able to overcome that and still be that success story. And I just appreciate, even having been married to Gail at least 40 years, and I look forward to at least 40 more. I never gave up. I would never give up. I would keep trying. And then I even get success. I even get joy and happiness out of trying, because I know that if I don't succeed, I know there's an opportunity for me to succeed. On the Christmas and Kwanzaa card combination,
Okay.
Yeah.
on the Steed product,
The what?
Steed, Steed, those are automotive products. We were selling quite a few.
Yeah.
Okay, on the being at the Olympic,
Oh yeah, them
the
peanuts.
the golden peanut. We sold the golden peanuts at the 60. I mean, now at whatever the Olympics when President Carter was running for president.
You had some Kappa shoes.
Oh yeah, Kappa shoes. Now a friend of mine told me about the well, not only Kappa shoes, but all socks, right, the whole 9 yards. But I would never give up, and I would never
Wait,
give
no,
up.
come on.
Oh, wait a minute, that was okay.
It's something about poster meter.
Oh yeah, posted meter. We was picking up posted meters from our businesses and taking them to the post office and have them refilled, so they wouldn't have to send an employee out.
And a drug prevention workbook.
Your drug prevention workbook.
Word up. What was it?
Listen up. Right, yeah. And then, I must say, with Listen Up, I did have a very, very fruitful career as being the director of alcohol and drugs for the state of Georgia. That was a position I retired in.
But listen up.
Was a curriculum that I was planning to place in all the schools, but then again, that was one of those things where the state told me I could not put a prevention workbook that I had authored into the curriculum when I was when I was the director of alcohol and drugs for the state. Right? We was planning to be able to purchase all of the land where the Atlanta Stadium is located and have the largest youth facility in the world. But guess what? Georgia State won out on that particular project. But guess what? We are looking at other land, and we have some land that has already been marked that we are going to pursue. And with that, we have the people who will possibly fund this for us. We have already made those connections, so it's going to be there.
I'm
It's just
sorry,
a matter
did
of time.
everybody in the room forget the one major one? He was going to be a millionaire off of what?
The lottery.
Well, yeah, there's that too. Acting.
Oh, that is still in the works now. Oh man, I haven't given up now. I must say that I was a extra in Flight with Denzel Washington. I've been in one with Tyler Perry, Witness Protection Program. I was in that. We are doing one now that we are finishing up on called Doing Time. This is where I'm going to get the Oscar and the first billionaire in the movie.
I believe you.
But can you
Thank you.
imagine being in a household where everything
No.
still had to go on and these thoughts
No.
just flourishing through their head and none of them coming to fertility?
But give me a little more time. That's the same thing with my Falcons. We're going to win the Super Bowl at the same time.
I believe it. Yeah. And to you, Mama.
I forgot what the
When
question.
all of your days have been said and done, what do you want to have been said about your life and your legacy?
I guess that I was a good role model as far as a mother, and caregiver for the grandchildren. That I was loyal to you. That I was dedicated. That's it. That's it.
That's good. That's good. My baby Kia. Brady, Drew, and my baby girl Kia. And she goes, say, main man, it is Kai. It is Kia.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.